Today we'll be talking about cancer. Cancer is a disease that occurs when changes happen in a group of normal cells within the body, leading to uncontrolled abnormal growth and forming a lump called a tumor. A survey report by the International Agency for Research on Cancer has shown that just 33 days into 2023, Nigeria has recorded over 10,000 new cancer cases and 7,000 deaths. Now, the World Cancer Day was marked 2 days ago, that's on February 4th, to raise awareness of cancer and to encourage its prevention, detection, and treatment. Now, in the studio, we have a medical doctor and a family health physician, Dr. Agbo Ebuta, and he's in the studio to share his thoughts on cancer management and prevention. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on Daybreak.
Good morning, and thank you for having me, and you're welcome, Nigerians.
All right, so how will you rate the level of cancer awareness in Nigeria?
One word: low.
Okay.
And I mean, that shouldn't be surprising, because if you look at cancer as a whole, and you contextualize it or you try to contextualize it against what's happening globally, you realize that as much as most of the burden for cancer, new cancer cases, death from cancer cases, are going to occur in low and middle income countries. If we were to use estimates and extrapolations, we probably globally may have as much as 17 or so million new cases of cancer yearly, and as much as 10 million of those patients who are diagnosed with cancer or extrapolated to have cancer will die, unfortunately. More than 60 to 65% of these people would die in low and middle income countries, and most of them would be in Africa. And we know that the African population of 1.4 billion, with 1 in every 5 black man or African resident being a Nigerian would also take a significant percentage. And in your opening statement, you clearly pointed out that as much as 10,000 new cases of cancers have so far occurred in 33 days. And if you multiply 33 days, you say, okay, you average it to 30, and you say you are talking of what, 1 year. That is clearly an estimated projection of about 120,000 new cases. If you extrapolate that much further, and you say that you have 7,000 deaths per month, and you multiply 7,000 deaths, that would be about 84,000 deaths expected this year. That is totally unacceptable. Again, it is because we have other indices. Apart from being in low and middle income countries, we have health system challenges. And these health system challenges conspire to ensure that the progress in cancer care in the country and management and prevention is adversely affected. That is why the theme for this year's cancer care is basically about what? Closing the gap. And where is this gap, globally speaking? It's in low and middle income countries.
All right, so that's in terms of, I think, the cancer care generally you're talking about. But there's one area I want to focus on. Most cancer cases are discovered very late, diagnosed very late. By the time that someone has a cancer diagnosis, it's already too far down the line, and we're talking about palliative care. Isn't there a way we can be able to, like, speed up the process or make it easier for people to actually get screened for cancer? I know there are tons of cancers out there, and is there one blanket way that you can be able to check for all of them?
Unfortunately, there are over 200 cancers. As you pointed out, each of these cancers require unique way of classifying and identifying them. And even within the subgroups of the different cancers, some of them, for you to definitely establish a clinically viable diagnosis, you have to subclassify your diagnostic measures. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, the situation is not going to significantly change, except we are able to adjust some of our health indices. Let me throw this. For example, out-of-pocket spending for healthcare in Nigeria is roughly put at about 70%, meaning that 70% of the Nigerian population wait to get ill, and when they get to the hospital, they have to cough out that money, and that money is not there. I mean, what's the income baseline? It's about 30,000 naira. Treatment of cancer, diagnosis of cancer, screening for cancer runs into tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, the Guardian newspaper actually carried it today, saying 20 million to treat cancer case and 1 million for radiotherapy.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that is close to it. But these are rough estimates. At the end of the day, you have people who need more than 20 million. You have people who need less than 20 million. But that figure is a significant average that may say how challenging the situation is. Apart from the out-of-pocket spending, the number of people who pay for health from out of pocket, and they pay for mainly acute conditions. So when you are trying to pay for malaria, you are trying to pay for typhoid, you are trying to pay for hypertension, you are trying to pay for diabetes, sometimes you may not have the finance to go and pay for a screening test, for example. If we were to screen for colorectal cancers, it's a bit expensive. Much cheaper screenings are things like maybe for HIV, which may link to cancer, yes, and then screening for hepatitis, which may be connected to cancer, screening for H. pylori, which may be connected to cancer, and screening for some other conditions like which are a bit esoteric, Epstein-Barr virus and the rest. So screening is not in our character in terms of when it comes to even our health beliefs. We are not interested in it. We will simply say it is not my portion.
No, but the thing is, even if we want to screen, what do we screen for? You just said that there are over 200 of these.
So good. So that's the idea. If you are going to screen, you are going to screen for the more common,
the usual suspects.
Yes. In as much as the long list of 200, there are a few that, for example, 50% of cancers occurring in Nigeria occur linked to either breast or cervical cancer. So if we are going to screen and prevent this, we can cut the burden by 50%. You can imagine that. And these are conditions, these are things that, I mean, when you talk of breast cancer screening, this is something that people can do in their showers when they are taking their baths. They do it at the end of the menses, and they do it probably every month. And then every year they go, and when they see their doctors, they get a proper clinical, you get evaluation. And if they can afford it, once a year, once they are above 40 to 50, depending on their risk factors, they get a mammogram. So all these are a bit, you need to have the framework and the structure in place. What is insurance penetration in Nigeria? Less than 5%, meaning that most people are not covered. Even the people that are covered by insurance in Nigeria are not necessarily covered for cancer screening and cancer treatment. So we need to be able to, the Nigerian Cancer Control Plan of 2018 to 2022 was very, very robust, like most of our plans are. But it took a couple of months to years for it to even be implemented, and even implementation was bogged down by many health system challenges. Finance, for example, was a big issue. What do we spend on health? How do you measure health financing for countries? In 2001, there was something called the Abuja Declaration. I think we're conversant with that. The Abuja Declaration, a couple of head of states met in this Abuja in 2001, and decided that your total contribution, the percentage of your gross budget, which will be allocated specifically to health, will be 15%. Now, only South Africa was probably doing 12% as a point, and one or two countries. In Africa, for example, most countries were doing less than 5%, 6%. Nigeria consistently performed at 5% until recently, where we spiked up to 6%, but even that was less than optimal. And let me just, for example, if you look at spending for health and spending for cancer, you know that we are significantly behind. The United States, for example, spent $200 billion on cancer care, treatment, diagnosis, and all of that in not too long ago. $200 billion at the current exchange rate will probably be about 150 trillion naira. Now, 150 trillion naira is 7 times our national budget. So even if we were to take all of our national budget to fund cancer care, it would not be there. But be that as it may, even our current national budget, we are underperforming in terms of allocation to what? Healthcare, and that is generally trickling down to cancer, because where malaria and other health conditions are priority, cancer, which is, a condition that you need to diagnose and you need to follow up, and it's basically a chronic condition, and more often than not leads to death, takes the back seat.
Now, earlier we actually talked about, 10,000 new cases, but, how can Nigeria actually manage more patients, with the amount of brain drain happening at the moment?
In fact, the issue of human resource for health is one of the cornerstone pillars of health system management. The ratios are scary and it's of concern. To manage a cancer case, what you need is a multidisciplinary team. Now, most of those members of the as you pointed, are being drained out of the system, and to even address specific cancers that require certain treatments like radiotherapy, you need a medical oncologist, you need a radio oncologist, you need a medical physicist, and you also need a radiographer that is trained in radiotherapy. Now, some of these people are not even available. In medical radio oncologists in Nigeria, oncologists generally in Nigeria are probably less than 100. Now, if you contextualize that against a population of 120 million people, it means that you probably have one oncologist to 2.2 million people. But the Nigerian health space cannot pay an oncologist, cannot compete in paying an oncologist at the global rate. So if you probably earn a couple of hundreds of dollars here in Nigeria, when you convert it, and you cross border to somewhere more lucrative, you may earn 10 times your salary in 1 month, compared to it will take you 1 whole year to earn 1 month of your salary. So there's a lot of competition. What can we do differently? Well, we need to start funding health. We need to start putting strategies in place that increase access to funding for health in a sustainable way. Last year, the president graciously signed a Nigerian Health Insurance Authority Act 2022. This mandated that every Nigerian will be covered by the insurance. This mandated that a significant percentage, which came to about 83 million Nigerians who are considered vulnerable, will be covered by some form of funding through the Nigerian Health Act and through special grants from global organizations which fund these kinds of things. So we need to have a larger pool. We need to get everybody, private sector people, we need to get the man on the street. We need to come up with disruptive innovations that ensures that the man on the street has access to some form of health insurance that increase the size of the pool, and we can now deploy intelligently. Now, we cannot approach healthcare the way the West is approaching it. Like we pointed out, the US spends $200 billion, which is about 7 times of our national budget only on cancer. So we cannot use the same strategy. We need to emphasize on prevention. We need to emphasize on early detection. And as you earlier pointed out, up to 80% of our cases of cancer present at the late stage, which is stage. There are usually 4 stages of cancer anyway, 1, 2, 3, 4. When you say 3 and 4, that's late. 1 and 2 is considered early. Now, most of our patients present at stage 3 and 4. And why is that? It happens because of many factors. Most Nigerians will take a convoluted pathway to healthcare. You are sick, you feel a lump in your chest, for example, or you feel something funny in your breast. You first reject it. You pray, you go to church on Sunday, you go to mosques, you see 1 or 2 people, you consult, you get, and some people will say it's what is the gene. Other people will say it's an attack, and all of that.
Spiritual attack.
And then even when Nigerians start to consult, some Nigerians start to consult, they start from their neighbors around their house, their uncles, their aunties, people who are supposed to have had a wider experiential access to health. And you don't blame them. And what happens? If that fails and they say that it's really getting bad, where do they go to next? They go to the chemist or the healthcare, the pharmacist around there. And they say, oh no, you know, they tell the person across the counter who may be a pharmacist or a health technician or just somebody who is smart at putting ideas together and marketing products. And he says, oh, I have this swelling on my leg, or I feel this rumbling in my tummy, which could be anything, or I have seen blood in my stool, and which there could be colorectal cancer, and you say it's bile, or my eyes have gone green, and they say, and what happens? The person packs a couple of drugs and say, oh, take this and you'll be fine. And next thing, things don't get better, and they take another convoluted pathway to the primary healthcare center, which may be poorly staffed, poorly equipped, with minimum or no diagnostic capacity. And by the time they get to the or even before they get to the grand hospital, of course they would consult their religious advisors, who would of course try to, you know, from the animist, from the traditionalist to the other arms of the religious space, who would try to come up with a theology with possible causes. If you've had a quarrel, if you have a problem in your office and you suddenly have a leg swelling, I mean, the coincidence is too much. We are Africans, and we believe that this is what the situation is. So these are the issues. So we need to educate our people massively. We have over 100 million lines. We have over 100 million people accessing some form of internet access. We have Starlink in Nigeria now with 100% broadband. So technology is a means and a way to delivering information that would change the health behavior of our Nigerians.
Okay, I just need you to actually touch on this, you know, very quickly. Reports have actually shown that women with breast cancer in Nigeria are relatively younger than, you know, their counterparts in, you know, other climes. What is actually responsible for this pattern? Because I remember last year I actually lost, you know, a friend, a very young, you know, lady to breast cancer as well.
Well, breast cancer has multiple etiologies, established and unestablished. Some of them are genetic-based etiologies. Now, for us to establish that, we need to do the significant evaluation of the number of people who have that family history. Those who have family history have higher risk of developing cancer. And there's a gene called the BRCA1 and BRCA2 gene. And these are breast cancer, they are breast cancer promoting genes. And guess what? In fact, some people are even doing what you call prophylactic mastectomy. So they have a history of breast cancer in their family, and they go and they do this expensive test to identify a gene. And when they have the gene, they estimate their risk, and they end up under the surgical blade, and they take out their breast. I mean, Angelina Jolie has done it, and a lot of people are promoting the idea. So in terms of what the etiological factors, we can only make intelligent guesses. What are our exercise lifestyle? Are we living healthy lifestyle? In certain parts of the Niger Delta, where the activities of oil barons have ensured that the atmosphere is completely polluted with sulfur, lead, rain, and all of that. It means that we expect that cases of cancer is going to spike up, because we know that hydrocarbon, burning of hydrocarbon, exposure to smoke, both cigarette smoke and hydrocarbon smoke, are contributing factors to what? Cancer etiology. So this is a factor. And certain meals we eat all kinds of meals. Even the pomo we eat, some people have said that when you are preparing pomos, it's put on unhygienically, is burnt with tires and all of that. That may introduce certain kinds of, carcinogenic agents to a large extent. So it's multifactorial. We have not established it, but we do know the risk factors.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I actually wish we had more time to, talk more on cancer. A very, very touchy topic there. But thank you so much, Doctor, for taking time out to enlighten us on, cancer awareness and more.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to come to Trust TV. You guys are doing a super job.